Midnight refuel. The desert stretched endlessly, a barren wasteland under the oppressive cloak of twilight. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the cracked asphalt of the lonely highway. Alex Carter gripped the steering wheel of their beat-up Jeep, eyes scanning the desolate landscape for any sign of civilization. The gas gauge hovered ominously close to empty, and the faint glow of a distant neon sign was a beacon of hope in the growing darkness. As the Jeep rumbled down the deserted road, the neon sign grew clearer, revealing itself to be a flickering beacon that read gas. The structure it adorned was a crumbling relic of a gas station, isolated and seemingly forgotten by time. Alex pulled into the gravelly lot, the tires crunching loudly in the oppressive silence. The gas station stood alone, a solitary outpost in an endless sea of sand and scrub. The gas station itself was a picture of decay. The once vibrant paint was peeling away, exposing the weather-beaten wood beneath. Rusted metal signs creaked in the faint breeze, their messages long faded and illegible. Weeds and desert flora had begun to reclaim the edges of the lot, and a thin layer of dust coated everything in sight. A solitary gas pump stood sentinel, its handle hanging loosely as if abandoned mid-use. Alex cut the engine, the sudden silence almost deafening. Stepping out of the Jeep, they felt the weight of the desert night pressing in, the vast emptiness surrounding them on all sides. The only sound was the faint hum of electricity from the flickering sign, a constant reminder of the isolation. Alex shivered, though the air was warm. There was something unnerving about the place, a feeling that prickled at the edges of their consciousness. Just get the gas and go, Alex muttered to themselves, striding towards the station's entrance. The door, hanging slightly ajar, creaked loudly as they pushed it open. The interior was dimly lit, the few functioning bulbs casting long shadows that danced eerily across the walls. Shelves of dusty, outdated products lined the room, and the air was thick with the scent of old oil and decay. Behind the counter stood Ethan Drake, the gas station attendant. He was a tall man, his frame lanky and his features sharp. His age was difficult to place, though he seemed to hover somewhere in his mid-30s. His eyes, however, held a depth and darkness that belied his polite demeanor. They were eyes that had seen too much, eyes that seemed to bore into Alex's very soul. "Evening," Ethan greeted with a nod, his voice smooth but carrying an undercurrent of something unsettling. "Need a fill-up?" "Yeah," Alex replied, trying to keep their tone casual. "Almost ran out of gas a few miles back. Lucky I found this place." Ethan's smile was thin, almost predatory. Lucky indeed. Not many folks come this way anymore. Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, scrutinized. "I'm just passing through, on my way to a photo shoot. Thought I'd stop for some gas and maybe a snack." Ethan's eyes flicked to the camera bag slung over Alex's shoulder. "A photographer, huh? Must see a lot of interesting places." Alex nodded, attempting a smile. "Yeah, that's the idea. Always looking for the next great shot." "Well," Ethan said, his gaze lingering on Alex a moment too long, "you've certainly come to an interesting place." Alex forced a chuckle, turning to the rows of snacks and drinks. The shelves were sparsely stocked, the products outdated and covered in a fine layer of dust. As Alex grabbed a bottle of water and a pack of chips, they couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. Every movement seemed amplified in the eerie quiet of the gas station. Returning to the counter, Alex handed Ethan a few bills. "For the gas and these." Ethan took the money, his fingers brushing against Alex's hand for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. "Enjoy your stay," he said, his smile never reaching his eyes. Alex nodded, a shiver running down their spine. "Thanks, I'll just fill up and be on my way." Stepping back outside, Alex inhaled deeply, the fresh air a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. They walked to the pump, the handle cold and rough in their grip. As the gas flowed into the Jeep's tank, Alex glanced back at the station, the windows dark and the interior barely visible. Ethan stood inside watching. The sensation of eyes on them didn't dissipate, even as the gas tank filled. Alex's instincts screamed to leave as quickly as possible, to get back on the road and put as much distance between themselves and this creepy outpost as they could. The Jeep's tank finally full, Alex replaced the nozzle and hurried back to the driver's seat. As they started the engine, Alex cast one last glance at the gas station. Ethan was still there, a shadowy figure in the dim light, his expression unreadable. Alex sped away, the gas station quickly disappearing in the rearview mirror. The sense of relief was palpable, but so was the lingering unease. The night was far from over, and the desert stretched on, vast and unforgiving. As the Jeep rumbled down the deserted highway once more, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't escaped the gas station's eerie grip entirely. Something about Ethan, about the station itself, clung to their thoughts, a dark shadow in the back of their mind. The road ahead was long and lonely, and the night was only just beginning. The Jeep's headlights cut through the dark, the desert around Alex seeming to close in with each passing mile. The road was a ribbon of isolation stretching endlessly before them, and the encounter at the gas station lingered in their mind like a stubborn shadow. As the minutes ticked by, the uneasy feeling only grew stronger, as if the very air had thickened with the sense of impending dread. The engine sputtered and coughed, jolting Alex from their thoughts. Glancing at the dashboard, Alex's heart sank. The gas gauge was plunging towards empty once more. How could that be? They had just filled the tank. A sinking feeling settled in their stomach as the Jeep lurched to a stop, the engine giving a final reluctant wheeze before dying completely. Alex pounded the steering wheel in frustration. Stranded in the middle of the desert, miles from the nearest town, with no cell service and night rapidly descending. This was the stuff of nightmares. Taking a deep breath, Alex tried to steady their racing heart. They had to go back. It was the only option. The walk back to the gas station was a grueling one. The darkness was almost absolute, broken only by the weak glow of the flashlight Alex had retrieved from the Jeep. The vastness of the desert felt even more oppressive now, each step echoing in the stillness. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes were tracking their progress through the night. When the flickering neon sign of the gas station finally came into view, Alex felt a mix of relief and trepidation. The dilapidated structure looked even more menacing in the darkness, its edges softened by the shadows, making it seem less like a building and more like a waiting predator. Steeling themselves, Alex pushed open the door, the creak of the hinges startlingly loud in the quiet. Ethan Drake was there, as if he hadn't moved since Alex left. He stood behind the counter, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp and alert. The dim light cast long shadows across his face, accentuating the sharp angles and making his smile seem more like a grimace. Back so soon, Ethan's voice was smooth, almost mocking. Car trouble. Alex forced a tight smile. Yeah, seems like I ran out of gas again. Thought I'd filled up, but something must have gone wrong. Ethan's eyes gleamed with an unreadable emotion. That's strange. Must be a leak or something. Need some help. The offer of help sounded more like a threat in the confines of the dimly lit station. But Alex had no other choice. Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. Ethan came around the counter, moving with a predatory grace that set Alex's nerves on edge. Let's take a look, he said, motioning for Alex to follow. Together, they stepped back out into the night, the desert's chill seeping into Alex's bones. As they approached the Jeep, Ethan produced a flashlight from his pocket, its beam cutting through the darkness with a harsh, artificial light. He inspected the Jeep with a meticulousness that seemed almost obsessive, his movements slow and deliberate. Don't see any obvious leaks, Ethan said finally, straightening up and wiping his hands on a rag. But we should get it back to the station. Got some tools there, maybe I can figure out what's wrong. Alex nodded, not trusting themselves to speak. They climbed back into the Jeep, watching as Ethan attached a tow cable to the front bumper. With a practiced ease, he hitched the Jeep to an old battered tow truck that looked like it had seen better days long before either of them were born. The drive back to the gas station was slow and silent, the only sound the rumble of the tow truck's engine. The darkness seemed to press in on all sides, the desert vast and empty, but full of unseen menace. Alex kept glancing at Ethan, who stared straight ahead, his face expressionless, his eyes hidden in shadow. Kept glancing at Ethan, who stared straight ahead, his face expressionless, his eyes hidden in shadow. When they arrived back at the station, Ethan unhitched the Jeep and guided it into the single garage bay. The garage was cluttered with tools and car parts, the air thick with the smell of oil and rust. Ethan moved with a confident efficiency, retrieving a toolbox and setting to work. Alex hovered nearby, feeling useless and anxious. The garage felt like a trap, the shadows deep and the corners filled with unseen threats. Ethan worked in silence, his focus intense, his face a mask of concentration. After what felt like an eternity, Ethan straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag again. Looks like your fuel line's been cut, he said, his tone matter of fact. Cut? Alex repeated, disbelief and fear mixing in their voice. How could that happen? Ethan shrugged, his expression inscrutable. Could be an accident. Or maybe someone didn't want you to leave. The implications of his words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Alex felt a cold sweat break out on their forehead. Can you fix it? Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, I can fix it, but it'll take some time. You can wait inside if you want. Safer in there. The words were meant to be reassuring, but they only made Alex more uneasy. Still, there was no other choice. Okay, Alex said, trying to sound braver than they felt. Thanks. Inside the station, the atmosphere was even more oppressive than before. The dim lights cast long, eerie shadows, and the hum of the flickering neon sign was a constant reminder of the isolation. Alex paced the small space, their mind racing. Who could have cut the fuel line? And why? The minutes dragged by, each one feeling like an eternity. Alex's thoughts kept returning to Ethan. There was something off about him, something that made their skin crawl. But he was also their only hope of getting out of this nightmare. Finally, Ethan reappeared, wiping his hands on his ever-present rag. It's fixed, he said, his voice calm and steady. You should be good to go now. Alex's relief was palpable. Thank you, they said, genuinely grateful despite their unease. I really appreciate it. Ethan's smile was thin, almost predatory. Just doing my job, he said. Drive safe out there. Alex nodded, eager to leave, but feeling a strange compulsion to look back at Ethan one last time. His eyes followed them as they exited the station, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Back in the Jeep, Alex started the engine, relieved to hear it roar to life. As they drove away, the gas station quickly disappearing in the rearview mirror, a sense of unease lingered. The night was far from over, and the desert stretched on, vast and unforgiving. But now, Alex knew one thing for certain. They weren't alone out here, and whatever lurked in the shadows of that gas station wasn't done with them yet. The road stretched endlessly before Alex, winding through the desolate desert like a ribbon of uncertainty. The Jeep's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the occasional gnarled tree or rocky outcrop that dotted the barren landscape. The encounter at the gas station lingered in Alex's mind like a persistent shadow, casting doubt on every mile of the lonely highway. The night air was cool and still, carrying with it the faint scent of desert sagebrush. Alex's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles turning white with tension. The desert seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something unseen to unfold. After what felt like hours of driving, Alex spotted a small, weather-beaten sign indicating a rest area up ahead. Relief flooded through them as they pulled off the highway and onto the gravel path leading to the rest area. The place was deserted, a few dimly lit picnic tables scattered under the flickering glow of a lone street lamp. Parking the Jeep near the edge of the rest area, Alex stepped out into the chilly night air. The silence was palpable, broken only by the distant call of a nocturnal bird. The stars above shimmered brightly, casting a soft glow over the desert landscape. Taking a deep breath, Alex walked over to one of the picnic tables and sat down, the rough wood feeling strangely comforting beneath their fingertips. They needed a moment to collect their thoughts, to make sense of the bizarre events that had unfolded at the gas station. The image of Ethan Drake, with his unnerving smile and piercing eyes, haunted Alex's thoughts. Pulling out their phone, Alex checked for a signal, hoping against hope to find a bar or two of reception. The screen remained stubbornly blank, no signal bars in sight. Frustration welled up inside them, mingling with a growing sense of unease. The isolation of the desert was suffocating, amplifying every doubt and fear. A growing sense of unease. The isolation of the desert was suffocating, amplifying every doubt and fear. As Alex sat there, staring at the unresponsive screen, a faint rustling sound caught their attention. Glancing up, they saw movement near the edge of the rest area, a shadowy figure, barely visible in the darkness. Heart racing, Alex stood up slowly, eyes fixed on the intruder. "Hello," Alex called out tentatively, the sound of their own voice seeming too loud in the stillness. The figure froze, then stepped forward into the dim circle of light cast by the street lamp. It was Ethan Drake, his silhouette unmistakable even from a distance. He approached with an easy confidence, his footsteps echoing softly on the gravel path. "Back so soon?" Ethan's voice carried across the empty rest area, his tone casual yet tinged with something Alex couldn't quite place. Alex's pulse quickened, a mixture of apprehension and curiosity swirling inside them. Ran into some car trouble, they replied, their voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. The Jeep stalled a few miles down the road. Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable in the half-light. Bad luck, he remarked, his gaze flicking briefly towards the dark expanse of desert beyond the rest area. These old roads can be unpredictable. Alex hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Yeah, it was strange, they admitted, choosing their words carefully. I thought I filled up at your station, but then my fuel line suddenly, well, it just stopped working. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly, as if considering Alex's words. That is strange, he acknowledged after a moment, his voice low. Must be a malfunction. Or maybe something else. The cryptic response sent a shiver down Alex's spine. Do you know anything about it? They asked cautiously, eyeing Ethan warily. Ethan's smile was enigmatic, a thin line in the darkness. I'm just the attendant, he replied vaguely. I fix things when they break. Alex swallowed hard, the unease growing stronger with each passing moment. Right, they murmured, unsure of what else to say. There was a tense silence between them, broken only by the soft rustling of the desert breeze. Alex felt a primal urge to leave, to get back in the Jeep and drive away from this unsettling encounter. But curiosity held them rooted to the spot, demanding answers to questions they didn't even fully understand. I should probably get back to my car, Alex finally said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. Thanks for checking on me. Ethan nodded, his eyes lingering on Alex a moment longer than necessary. Anytime, he replied smoothly. Drive safe out there. With that, Alex turned and walked briskly back to the Jeep, every nerve on edge. They climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine, the familiar roar a comfort amidst the mounting tension. Glancing in the rearview mirror, they saw Ethan still standing in the glow of the street lamp, watching them depart with an intensity that sent a chill down Alex's spine. As they pulled back onto the highway, leaving the rest area and Ethan behind, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. The night stretched out before them, vast and unforgiving, and the mysteries of the gas station seemed more elusive than ever. The highway stretched on like an endless serpent through the desert, the Jeep's headlights cutting through the darkness with a steady, unwavering beam. Alex drove in silence, the encounter with Ethan at the rest area replaying in their mind like a haunting melody. Questions buzzed like persistent flies, each one more unsettling than the last. What did Ethan know about the Jeep's malfunction? Why did he seem so unnervingly calm about it all? The night air seeped through the cracks in the Jeep's windows, cool and dry, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and distant sand. Stars glittered overhead, countless pinpricks of light against the deep velvet sky. Alex's grip on the steering wheel tightened with each passing mile, a mixture of fear and determination driving them forward. A sign up ahead announced the approach of a small town, a welcome oasis amidst the barren desert. Alex's heart lifted slightly at the prospect of civilization, of people, of safety. They pulled off the highway and into the town, the streets quiet and deserted at this late hour. Finding a gas station that looked newer and more welcoming than the last, Alex parked the Jeep and stepped out, the crunch of gravel underfoot echoing in the stillness. The gas station was brightly lit, a stark contrast to the eerie glow of Ethan's outpost. Alex approached the convenience store attached to the station, the automatic doors sliding open with a soft chime. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the faint scent of freshly brewed coffee. Shelves were neatly stocked with snacks and drinks, the brightly colored packaging a welcome sight after the dim, dusty offerings of the previous stop. Alex grabbed a bottle of water and a bag of chips, then made their way to the counter where a young woman with a friendly smile stood waiting. Heaving, she greeted warmly, her voice breaking the silence that had settled over Alex like a suffocating blanket. Just these today. Alex nodded, handing over a few bills. Yeah, thanks. The woman rang up the items efficiently, her fingers dancing over the register keys. Heading somewhere late? She asked conversationally, handing Alex their change. Just passing through, Alex replied vaguely, not wanting to delve into their recent experiences. On my way to somewhere. The woman chuckled softly. Well, be careful out there, she said with a knowing look. These desert roads can be tricky at night. Alex managed a weak smile. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. Leaving the gas station, Alex climbed back into the Jeep. The warmth and normalcy of the store, a stark contrast to the unsettling encounters of the night. They glanced at their phone again, hoping for a signal this time. To their surprise and relief, a single bar appeared at the top of the screen. With fingers trembling slightly, Alex tapped out a quick message to a friend, a lifeline in the digital void. As they waited for a reply, Alex's thoughts returned to Ethan and the gas station in the desert. There was something deeply wrong about that place, about him. The way he had looked at them, as if he knew something they didn't. The sudden thought struck Alex. What if Ethan was hiding something? Something more sinister than a mere malfunctioning fuel line? The sound of their phone buzzing broke through Alex's thoughts. A message had arrived. A friend offering reassurance and a reminder to stay safe. The simple act of communication felt like a lifeline, grounding Alex in the present moment. With a renewed sense of determination, Alex started the Jeep and pulled back onto the highway, leaving the town and its comforting lights behind. The road stretched out before them once more, a path leading deeper into the heart of the desert. But now, armed with a faint signal and a flicker of hope, Alex was ready to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the shadows of the night. The desert night wrapped around Alex like a heavy cloak as they drove deeper into the wilderness, leaving the town and its comforting lights far behind. The highway stretched out ahead, a lone ribbon of asphalt cutting through the vast, silent expanse of sand and sagebrush. The Jeep's headlights pierced the darkness, casting fleeting shadows that danced along the edges of Alex's vision. With each passing mile, the sense of unease grew stronger, fueled by the unsettling encounters at the gas station and the rest area. Ethan's cryptic words echoed in Alex's mind, haunting them like a persistent specter. What was he hiding? And why did he seem to appear wherever Alex turned? A faint glow on the horizon signaled the approach of another outpost, a small settlement marked by a cluster of lights and a flickering neon sign. Alex's heart skipped a beat at the sight, torn between the instinct to seek refuge and the gnawing curiosity that demanded answers. Pulling into the settlement, Alex found a cluster of buildings, a diner, a motel with a worn sign that flickered intermittently, and another gas station, larger and more inviting than the last. The gravel crunched under the Jeep's tires as Alex parked in front of the gas station, the bright lights casting long shadows that seemed to stretch towards them like grasping fingers. Stepping out into the chilly night air, Alex hesitated for a moment, taking in the surroundings. The gas station was bustling with activity, a few trucks parked at the pumps, their engines rumbling softly, a lone figure smoking near the entrance, and the murmur of voices drifting from inside the store. Taking a deep breath to steady their nerves, Alex approached the store entrance. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Alex stepped into the warm, fluorescent-lit interior. Shelves lined with snacks and drinks stretched out before them, and the air was thick with the scent of coffee and fried food. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged man with a tired expression, his eyes scanning a newspaper with half-hearted interest. He looked up as Alex approached, offering a weary smile. "Evening," he greeted, his voice gravelly from years of cigarette smoke. "What can I do for you?" Alex returned the smile, trying to appear casual despite the turmoil inside. "Just looking for some supplies," they replied, their voice steady, "and maybe some information." The man raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering in his tired eyes. "Information, huh?" he mused, setting the newspaper aside. "What kind of information are you looking for?" Alex hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I had some car trouble back down the road." They began cautiously, choosing their words carefully. At a smaller gas station, the attendant there, Ethan, he seemed off. The man's expression darkened slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Ethan, huh?" he muttered under his breath, as if the name held some significance. "Yeah, I've heard things about him. Strange things." Alex leaned in slightly, their curiosity piqued. "What kind of things?" they pressed, their voice low. The man glanced around the store, as if checking for eavesdroppers, before leaning closer to Alex. "People say he's not right," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of refrigerators. "There's talk of things happening around that station. Strange disappearances, odd occurrences. No one goes near there if they can help it." Alex's blood ran cold at the man's words, a chill settling in the pit of their stomach. "Disappearances," they repeated, their mind racing. "What kind of odd occurrences?" The man shook his head slowly, his gaze distant. "Hard to say," he replied cryptically. "Just things that don't add up. And folks who go poking around, they don't always come back." The gravity of the man's words hung heavy in the air, the silence between them thick with unspoken fears. Alex swallowed hard, their thoughts racing. Ethan's enigmatic behavior, the mysterious incidents at the gas station. It all pointed to something dark and hidden, lurking in the shadows of the desert. Listen, the man said suddenly, breaking the tense silence. If you're smart, you'll stay far away from that place. There are secrets out there, things better left alone. Alex nodded slowly, their mind whirling with possibilities. Thank you, they said earnestly, grateful for the warning. I'll keep that in mind. Turning away from the counter, Alex gathered their supplies, a few snacks, a bottle of water, and a map of the area, and headed back to the Jeep. The night outside felt colder now, more ominous, as if the darkness held unseen dangers. But Alex was determined. They had come this far, and they couldn't turn back now. As they drove away from the settlement, leaving the lights and voices behind, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The desert stretched out around them, vast and indifferent, hiding its secrets in the folds of sand and sagebrush. Ethan, the gas station, the unsettling revelations. They were all pieces of a puzzle that Alex was determined to solve, no matter the cost. Ahead, the road wound deeper into the heart of the desert, leading towards the unknown. And Alex knew with a sinking certainty that the answers they sought lay waiting in the darkness ahead. The desert night held Alex in its silent grip as they continued down the winding highway, the Jeep's headlights cutting through the darkness with unwavering determination. Thoughts of Ethan, the enigmatic gas station attendant, and the cryptic warnings from the man at the settlement gas station swirled in Alex's mind like a tempestuous storm. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, an uncertain path leading deeper into the heart of mystery. A lone coyote's haunting howl echoed in the distance, a sound that sent a chill down Alex's spine. The desert landscape unfolded around them, vast and desolate under the canopy of stars that shimmered with an eerie brilliance. Every mile brought them closer to the source of their unease, closer to the truth that lay hidden in the folds of sand and silence. As the highway curved gently to the left, Alex caught sight of a weathered sign up ahead, a faded emblem that marked the turnoff for the gas station. Heart pounding, Alex slowed the Jeep and turned onto the narrow, unpaved road that led towards their destination. The air grew colder, thicker with anticipation and a primal sense of foreboding. The gas station emerged from the darkness like a specter, its neon sign flickering faintly in the night. The familiar glow cast an otherworldly hue over the surrounding desert, painting shadows that seemed to dance and twist with a life of their own. Alex parked the Jeep a short distance away, the engine's quiet hum a stark contrast to the eerie stillness that enveloped the station. Stepping out into the chilly night air, Alex's senses were assaulted by the faint smell of gasoline and dust. The wind whispered through the sparse vegetation, carrying with it an unsettling silence that seemed to weigh heavily on the air. The gas pumps stood like sentinels, their metal frames glinting dully under the feeble light of the neon sign. Approaching the station on foot, Alex's footsteps echoed softly on the gravel path. They hesitated for a moment at the entrance, steeling themselves for whatever revelations awaited inside. Pushing open the creaking door, Alex stepped into the dimly lit interior of the convenience store. The air inside was stale and musty, shelves stocked with dusty goods that seemed frozen in time. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that danced along the walls. The store was deserted, devoid of life save for the faint hum of refrigerators and the occasional creak of settling wood. Behind the counter, Ethan stood with his back turned, seemingly engrossed in rearranging items on a shelf. His presence sent a shiver down Alex's spine, a mixture of apprehension and determination flooding their senses. This was it, the moment of reckoning, where truths would be unveiled and mysteries unraveled. Clearing their throat, Alex approached the counter cautiously, their voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Ethan, they called out, their tone firm. Ethan turned slowly, his expression unreadable in the dim light. His eyes met Alex's with an intensity that sent a chill down their spine. Back again, he remarked casually, his voice echoing faintly in the empty store. Alex took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling heavily on their shoulders. I need answers, they stated firmly, their voice echoing with quiet resolve. What's really going on here, Ethan? Why all the secrecy? Ethan's lips curved into a knowing smile, a flash of something unsettling glinting in his eyes. Secrets, he mused softly, as if tasting the word. Everyone has them, Alex. Some are just buried deeper than others. Alex felt a surge of frustration, their patience wearing thin. Enough games. They pressed, their voice tinged with urgency. People have disappeared. Strange things have happened. What are you hiding? Ethan's smile widened slightly, the shadows playing across his features. Curiosity killed the cat, Alex, he replied cryptically. Some doors are better left closed. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, suffocating and oppressive. Alex's heart raced, torn between the urge to flee and the burning desire for answers. They took a step closer to the counter, their gaze locked with Ethan's. I'm not leaving until I get the truth, Alex declared firmly, their voice ringing with determination. Ethan regarded them silently for a moment, his expression inscrutable. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of untold burdens, he nodded slowly. Very well, he conceded, his voice low. But know this, Alex, some truths are darker than you can imagine. With that ominous warning hanging in the air, Ethan turned away and disappeared into a back room, leaving Alex standing alone in the dimly lit store. The silence pressed in around them, heavy and suffocating, as if the very walls held their breath. Heart pounding, Alex glanced around the store, searching for any clue, any hint that could unravel the mystery. Their eyes fell on a dusty old ledger behind the counter, its pages yellowed with age. With trembling hands, Alex reached for the ledger and flipped it open, scanning the entries with growing unease. Names, dates, cryptic notes. Each entry told a story of its own, a story woven with threads of fear and uncertainty. Alex's pulse quickened as they pieced together fragments of a puzzle that seemed to stretch far beyond the walls of the gas station. There were patterns, anomalies, hints of something lurking in the shadows. As they delved deeper into the ledger, a noise behind them made Alex startle. Whirling around, they saw Ethan standing in the doorway, his gaze fixed on the ledger with an unreadable expression. You shouldn't have come here, he said quietly, a hint of sorrow in his voice. But Alex couldn't turn back now. They had come too far, seen too much. The truth awaited, buried in the darkness that surrounded them. With a steely resolve, Alex met Ethan's gaze. I need to know, they said firmly. What happened here? What are you hiding? Ethan hesitated, the silence stretching taut between them like a fragile thread. Finally, he sighed heavily and stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Long ago, this land was different. He began, his eyes distant as if recalling a distant memory. There was a village here, a community that thrived in harmony with the desert. But then, things changed. People started to disappear, strange occurrences plagued the nights. Fear took hold, and the village fell into shadow. Started to disappear, strange occurrences plagued the nights. Fear took hold, and the village fell into shadow. Alex listened intently, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fall into place. And the gas station? They prompted, their voice barely a whisper. Ethan's gaze darkened, his jaw tightening with unresolved tension. The gas station was built over the ruins of that village, he admitted reluctantly. I don't know why, or by whom, but ever since, strange things have happened here, things that defy explanation. The revelation sent a chill down Alex's spine. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to form a terrifying picture, a picture of dark secrets and ancient curses, buried beneath layers of time and neglect. What do we do now? Alex asked quietly, their voice tinged with both fear and determination. Ethan's gaze softened, a flicker of something akin to regret in his eyes. I don't know, he confessed honestly. But one thing is certain, we can't ignore this any longer. Whatever is here, it won't rest until it's uncovered. As if on cue, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows of the gas station, sending a shiver through the air. The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move in this deadly game of truth and consequences. With a shared glance of understanding, Alex and Ethan turned back to the ledger, their fingers tracing the names and dates that held the key to unlocking the dark mysteries of the gas station. The truth lay ahead, hidden in the shadows that whispered of forgotten tales and ancient curses. Together, they would uncover the secrets buried in the heart of the desert, no matter the cost. For in the darkness of that lonely gas station, the past and present collided with a force that could not be denied. The night stretched on in an eerie stillness as Alex and Ethan pored over the dusty ledger, their fingers tracing the faded ink of names and dates that whispered of untold stories and forgotten tragedies. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that danced across the worn pages, illuminating secrets long buried beneath layers of desert sand and silence. Outside, the desert wind sighed mournfully, as if echoing the ghosts of the past that lingered in the air. Inside the gas station, The air felt charged with tension, each moment pregnant with the weight of revelations yet to come. This can't be real, Alex murmured, their voice barely above a whisper as they read through the entries. These names, they just vanish without a trace. Ethan nodded solemnly, his brow furrowed in concentration. The disappearances started long ago, he explained quietly, his voice tinged with sorrow. At first, we thought it was just bad luck, accidents in the desert. But then, the pattern emerged. The ledger painted a grim picture, a chronicle of lives lost, of people who had ventured into the desert night and never returned. Each entry bore witness to the fear and uncertainty that had plagued the small community, a community haunted by shadows that lurked at the edge of perception. What happened to them? Alex asked, their voice trembling with a mixture of dread and morbid curiosity. Ethan hesitated, his gaze distant as he searched for the right words. No one knows for certain, he admitted quietly. Some say they wandered into the desert, lost to the sands. Others believe something darker claimed them. Alex's pulse quickened, their mind racing with possibilities. Darker? They pressed, their eyes locked on Ethan's. Ethan's expression darkened, his voice barely a whisper. Legends speak of a curse, he murmured, his words laden with ancient weight. A curse that befell the village long ago, a curse that demands blood in exchange for peace. The revelation sent a chill down Alex's spine. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, a tapestry of fear and superstition woven with threads of truth and dread. The gas station, built over the remnants of a cursed village, had become a beacon for lost souls and restless spirits. But why here? Alex asked, their voice filled with urgency. Why build a gas station over this? Ethan shook his head slowly, his gaze haunted. I don't know, he confessed quietly. But there are forces at play here, forces that defy logic and reason. We're merely pawns in a game we don't understand. The weight of Ethan's words settled heavily on Alex's shoulders, a burden of responsibility and fear. Outside, the desert night seemed to press closer, its secrets whispering through the cracks in the walls. Time stretched on, measured in heartbeats, and the soft rustle of pages as they turned through the ledger. Suddenly, a noise broke the stillness, a soft thud from the back room, followed by the creak of a door. Alex and Ethan froze, their gazes locking in silent understanding. Without a word, they rose from the counter and moved cautiously towards the source of the sound. The back room was dimly lit, a single bare bulb casting feeble light over stacked crates and shelves cluttered with old tools and supplies. Shadows danced along the walls, elongating and contorting in the uncertain light. Alex's heart pounded in their chest, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they approached the half-open door. Ethan reached out a hand, its fingers trembling slightly as he pushed the door open further. The room beyond was small and cramped, the air thick with dust and an unsettling stillness. And there, in the center of the room, stood a rusted trapdoor set into the floor. A portal to the unknown, its secrets beckoning like a siren's call. We have to open it, Alex whispered, their voice barely audible over the pounding of their heart. Ethan hesitated, his eyes fixed on the trapdoor with a mixture of dread and determination. Are you sure? He asked softly, his voice tinged with apprehension. Alex met his gaze with unwavering resolve. We need to know, they replied firmly, their voice steadier than they felt. With a shared nod of understanding, Ethan and Alex knelt beside the trapdoor, their hands gripping the rusted handle. The metal groaned in protest as they pulled, hinges creaking with disuse. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the trapdoor swung open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the feeble light. Together, they peered into the depths below, a yawning abyss that echoed with the whispers of the past. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and decay, a tangible reminder of the secrets that lay buried in the darkness. Here goes nothing, Alex murmured, their voice tinged with uncertainty. With a deep breath, they descended into the abyss, Ethan close behind. The trapdoor closed with a soft thud, sealing them in darkness as they ventured deeper into the heart of the gas station's hidden mysteries. The descent seemed to stretch on for an eternity, each step echoing in the confined space. The air grew colder, thicker with the weight of ancient secrets and unseen presences. Their flashlights cast feeble beams that flickered over rough-hewn walls and a floor scattered with dust and debris. Ahead, a faint glimmer caught Alex's eye, a hint of something metallic, half buried in the dirt. Kneeling down, they brushed away the dust with trembling fingers, revealing an old tarnished pendant dangling from a frayed cord. The pendant bore intricate carvings, a symbol of protection, or perhaps of warning. Ethan knelt beside Alex, his breath catching as he recognized the pendant. This belonged to. He started, his voice trailing off as realization dawned. Alex nodded slowly, their mind racing with possibilities. The pendant held a clue, a link to the past that refused to remain buried. But what did it signify? And how did it connect to the disappearances, to the curse that had plagued this land for generations? Before they could ponder further, a distant sound echoed through the darkness, a soft, mournful wail that sent a chill down their spines. The sound seemed to reverberate through the very walls, haunting and desperate. Ethan's grip on Alex's arm tightened, his eyes wide with fear. "We're not alone down here," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the echoing wail. With renewed urgency, Alex and Ethan pressed on, following the faint echoes deeper into the labyrinthine depths. The air grew colder, each corridor and chamber a maze of shadows and half-truths. The darkness seemed alive, pulsing with a malevolent energy that threatened to consume them. And then they stumbled upon it, a chamber bathed in a dim, unearthly light. In the center of the chamber stood a crude altar, its surface etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Surrounding the altar were rows of weathered bones, arranged with eerie precision, an unsettling reminder of lives lost and sacrifices made. This is, Ethan stammered, his voice trembling with disbelief. Alex's breath caught in their throat as they approached the altar, their senses overwhelmed by the palpable aura of ancient power. The symbols on the altar seemed to writhe and shift as if alive with a sinister intent. They reached out a hand, hesitating for a moment before tracing the carvings with trembling fingers. And then a voice echoed through the chamber, a whisper from the depths of time, a voice that spoke of anguish and despair. "Release me," it pleaded, a spectral presence that seemed to hover just beyond reach. The air grew thick with tension, the very fabric of reality trembling under the weight of unseen forces. Alex and Ethan exchanged a glance, their hearts racing with a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to do something," Alex murmured, their voice filled with urgency. But before they could act, a sudden gust of wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices that filled the air with a cacophony of anguish and rage. And then the ground trembled beneath their feet, a seismic tremor that threatened to tear the very foundations of the gas station asunder. Alex and Ethan staggered, grasping desperately for balance as the chamber shook with an unearthly fury. "We've awakened something," Ethan gasped, his voice barely audible over the din. Alex nodded grimly, their mind racing with possibilities. The curse, the sacrifices, the answers lay before them, obscured by layers of time and fear. But now, with the ancient power unleashed, there was no turning back. With a shared resolve, Alex and Ethan braced themselves against the onslaught, their hands clasped in silent solidarity. The chamber quaked around them, a testament to the reckoning that had been awakened in the heart of the desert. And as the darkness closed in, swallowing them whole, Alex knew that they had crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. The gas station, the curse, the truth. They were all intertwined in a tapestry of fate that had been woven long before their time. As the chamber echoed with the cries of the past, Alex and Ethan stood firm, their resolve unshaken. For in the heart of darkness, amidst the echoes of the past, they would confront the truth and face the consequences that awaited in the shadows of the gas station. The chamber trembled around Alex and Ethan, echoes of unearthly whispers mingling with the palpable fear that hung heavy in the air. Shadows danced wildly on the walls, as if driven by unseen hands, while the symbols on the ancient altar pulsed with a faint, ominous glow. "We have to do something," Alex urged, their voice barely audible over the tumultuous cacophony of spectral voices. The ground beneath their feet continued to quake, threatening to engulf them in the ancient turmoil awakened by their presence. Ethan nodded grimly, his eyes fixed on the altar where the symbols seemed to writhe with a life of their own. "But what can we do?" he replied, his voice strained with uncertainty. "We're in the heart of something beyond our understanding." As if in response, a sudden surge of energy rippled through the chamber, causing the air to crackle with unseen power. The darkness seemed to coalesce, gathering in dense tendrils that twisted and writhed around them like malevolent spirits eager to break free. "We've disturbed the balance," Ethan muttered, his gaze darting around the chamber nervously. "The curse. It demands restitution." Alex's mind raced, grappling with the weight of their discovery and the imminent danger closing in around them. There must be a way to appease it, they muttered, more to themselves than to Ethan, as they scanned the room for any clue, any sign that might offer a solution. And then, amidst the chaos, a faint glimmer caught Alex's eye. A small weathered book tucked away in a corner of the chamber, its leather-bound cover cracked and worn with age. With trembling hands, Alex reached for the book and opened it, revealing pages yellowed with time and filled with faded ink. "It's a journal," Alex breathed, their voice filled with awe and trepidation as they scanned the entries. The script was archaic, written in a language that seemed almost familiar yet impossibly ancient. Each page chronicled events of a bygone era, tales of a village plagued by misfortune, and a darkness that stalked its inhabitants. Ethan peered over Alex's shoulder, his brow furrowed in concentration as he deciphered the cryptic text. "It speaks of sacrifices," he murmured, his voice trembling with realization. "Offerings to appease the curse, to ward off the darkness." Alex's heart sank, the implications of their discovery weighing heavily on their shoulders. But who? Who was sacrificed? They whispered, their voice barely audible in the oppressive silence that followed. Ethan hesitated, his gaze distant as he absorbed the implications of the journal's revelations. "Innocence," he replied quietly, his voice tinged with sorrow. "Those deemed necessary to satisfy the curse's hunger." A chill settled over the chamber, the air thick with the weight of untold tragedies and forgotten souls. Outside, the winds howled mournfully, carrying with them the echoes of anguish that reverberated through the desert night. "We have to stop it," Alex insisted, their voice firm despite the rising tide of fear and uncertainty. "We can't let this darkness consume any more lives." Ethan nodded solemnly, his resolve steeling against the encroaching shadows. "There's a ritual," he began, his voice steadier now as he flipped through the pages of the journal. "A way to seal the curse, to banish it back to where it came from, back to where it came from." Together, they pored over the ancient text, piecing together fragments of a ritual that promised salvation amidst the chaos. Symbols, incantations, each element held significance, a thread in the tapestry of redemption they sought to weave. Hours passed in a blur as they prepared, gathering what they needed: a vial of sacred water, herbs blessed by moonlight, and the pendant found earlier, its protective aura their only shield against the encroaching darkness. The chamber hummed with latent energy, anticipation mingling with dread as they braced themselves for the final confrontation. At last, everything was in place. Ethan stood before the altar, his voice steady as he began to chant the ancient incantation, each word resonating with power and purpose. Alex stood beside him, their hands trembling slightly as they held the pendant aloft, its carved symbols glowing faintly in response to the ritual's energy. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, the very walls pulsing with the convergence of forces beyond mortal comprehension. Shadows recoiled, the malevolent tendrils retreating as if repelled by the purity of their intent. And then, with a final surge of determination, Ethan uttered the last line of the incantation, a resounding declaration that echoed through the chamber with a force that shook the very foundations of the gas station. Silence followed, deafening in its abruptness. The air grew still, the shadows dissipating like wisps of smoke in the morning light. Outside, the wind ceased their mournful lament, replaced by a serene stillness that settled over the desert landscape. Alex and Ethan exchanged a weary yet triumphant glance, their breaths mingling in the aftermath of their ordeal. The curse had been banished, its hold over the gas station broken by their courage and resolve. "We did it," Alex murmured, their voice filled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. Ethan nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "We did," he agreed, his gaze lingering on the altar now devoid of its sinister glow. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden hues across the desert sands, Alex and Ethan emerged from the chamber, carrying with them the weight of their shared ordeal and the knowledge that they had confronted darkness and emerged victorious. But the gas station remained, a silent sentinel amidst the shifting sands, a reminder of the mysteries that lurked beneath its weathered facade, waiting for the next unwitting traveler to unlock its secrets. Days passed in a blur for Alex and Ethan after the harrowing ordeal in the chamber beneath the gas station. The desert sun rose and set in a rhythm that felt both reassuringly mundane and eerily detached from the supernatural events they had witnessed. Yet, despite the passage of time, the memories of that night lingered like a specter in the back of their minds. Alex found themselves drawn back to the gas station, their thoughts consumed by unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. The air seemed charged with residual energy, a reminder of the darkness that had threatened to consume them, a darkness they had narrowly escaped, but not without scars, both seen and unseen. Ethan, too, was haunted by the events. He spent restless nights poring over the journal they had found, searching for any clue that might shed light on the origins of the curse and the fate of those who had fallen victim to its malevolent grasp. Each page revealed more of the tragic history of the cursed village, a history intertwined with betrayal, desperation, and ultimately, sacrifice. One evening, as dusk settled over the desert landscape, Alex returned to the gas station. The familiar sight of the weathered building took on a new significance, a monument to their shared struggle against forces beyond comprehension. Inside, the air felt heavy with the weight of untold stories and unanswered prayers. Ethan greeted Alex with a solemn nod, his eyes reflecting a mixture of weariness and determination. "I've been going through the journal," he began, his voice tinged with urgency. "There's more to this curse than we initially thought." Alex approached. Their curiosity piqued despite the lingering fear that gnawed at their insides. "What have you found?" they asked, their voice steady despite the turmoil in their heart. Ethan motioned towards a table where the journal lay open, its pages filled with sketches and annotations that traced the lineage of the cursed village back through centuries of forgotten history. "The curse isn't just a random affliction," he explained, his finger tracing a map that depicted the village and its surroundings. "It was born of a pact, an ancient pact that bound the fate of the villagers to the land itself." Alex studied the map, their mind racing with implications. "So, the sacrifices," they began, their voice trailing off as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Ethan nodded gravely. "They were part of the pact," he confirmed, his voice barely above a whisper. A desperate attempt to appease forces that should never have been trifled with. Silence settled between them, heavy with the weight of centuries-old sins and the inevitability of consequences long delayed. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of sand and solitude that seemed indifferent to the struggles of those who walked its arid paths. "We can't undo what has been done," Alex murmured finally, their voice tinged with resignation. "But perhaps we can find a way to bring peace to those who were lost." Ethan's gaze lifted, meeting Alex's with a glimmer of hope. "The journal speaks of a ritual," he said slowly, his words measured. "A ritual of redemption, a way to break the cycle of suffering and ensure that no more innocents are claimed by the curse." Alex nodded thoughtfully, their thoughts already turning towards the task ahead. "We owe it to them," they replied quietly, their voice tinged with determination. "To those whose lives were cut short, to those whose souls still wander in search of rest." Together, they immersed themselves in the journal's ancient wisdom, deciphering the intricate details of the ritual that promised salvation. Symbols, incantations, materials, all were meticulously recorded, each step a testament to the villagers' desperate plea for forgiveness and absolution. Days turned into nights as they prepared, gathering the necessary ingredients under the watchful gaze of the desert stars. Moonlit herbs, purified water, and relics of protection. A makeshift altar took shape beneath the canopy of a desert night that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. At last, everything was in place. Alex and Ethan stood before the altar, their hands trembling slightly as they prepared to invoke the ritual that would determine the fate of generations past and present. The air was charged with anticipation, a silent witness to their solemn vow to right the wrongs of history. Ethan began the incantation, his voice steady yet reverent as he spoke words that echoed through the stillness of the night. Alex followed, their voice joining his in a harmonious cadence that resonated with ancient power and purpose. Symbols glowed faintly in response, their energies intertwining in a dance of redemption that transcended time and space. And then, as the final syllable echoed into the desert night, a profound silence descended, a silence that carried with it the weight of centuries-old burdens lifted, of souls finally finding peace. In the distance, a faint breeze stirred, carrying with it a whisper of gratitude, of forgiveness, of redemption. The desert landscape seemed to shimmer with newfound clarity, the stars above twinkling in approval of a task well done. Alex and Ethan stood side by side, their hearts heavy yet lightened by the knowledge that they had honored the past and forged a path towards a future free from the shackles of ancient curses. Together, they gazed out into the desert expanse, where the gas station stood as a sentinel of resilience and hope amidst the shifting sands. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the desert landscape, Alex and Ethan knew that their journey was far from over, but with each step forward, they carried with them the lessons learned from the depths of darkness, a testament to the enduring power of courage, compassion, and the indomitable spirit of humanity.